customers of yours and fans of Whiskey Acres and fans of the podcast, and they don't like
Awesome.
Jake, I'll do something special for them.
Yep.
As long as they leave us a positive review
Yeah.
on the podcast, huh?
They will. The one.
Haven't talked shit to what's his nuts.
So I
The guy
should
that changed his name.
wait. I should also mention the one guy who's coming to Whiskey Acres was like, "Yeah, I'm so into your guys' podcast that I started listening to the Movie Matters podcast." And he's like, "I love it. Like, I start cracking up during
Really?
some of those episodes." He's like, "Yeah, I'm a huge movie buff, so like now I'm probably your biggest fans on both the podcasts."
Oh, that's cool.
Uh-huh.
There's 1 of 5 on one and 1 of 2 on the other. So
A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters.
Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Jake from Gold Eagle.
And due to copyright laws, we are talking about the big game this week.
This today, if you're listening to it on the day of the episode drop, there's a very super game that's very big that's being played later today, and I think Usher is going to be there for some reason, and T Swift. So
Yeah, it's about as big as a college bowl game, and it's very super.
Oh, that's all our ways to tiptoe around this bullshit in the NFL. Get over yourselves.
We wanted to talk about Whiskey Advocate put out an article about pairings for football food and whiskey, which is absolute trash.
Oh
and we
wait,
think
I
it's
never saw
hilarious.
that article.
So,
I thought we were talking about their top.
Oh, don't
20
worry.
list.
It wasn't. It's like there. If you're having a Super Bowl party, serve this food and pair it with this whiskey.
Ooh, all right, I
And
gotta
it's
look
just
this
the
up.
most-
absolute garbage.
It's absolute garbage. Like, I've never been to a Super Bowl party where any of these foods have ever been served. Now, to be fair, I don't go to very classy Super Bowl parties because normally I'm at Jake's,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't expect classy things. But it's just, I don't know. Like, we talk about how we don't like hoity-toity whiskey people and their comments, and this list just bleeds that. So, I don't know. We'll kind of talk about some of the things they mentioned that you should be having for the super game today, and then we can give you our input on if it's a good match or not, and what you should have instead.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
Jake, I know I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I just looked up the article and it's the same Six Stooges that they feature in every other article that they post.
Yeah.
Highland Park, Eagle Rare, Mill Almond Green, Yamazaki, Suntory, Redwood Empire, Weller Reserve, Whistle Pig, Old Particular. I mean, that's like 90% of what's on every Whiskey Advocate article. Come on.
So let's start there. They're wanting the Prince Edward Island oysters and Highland Park 12-year-old. I have no idea what a Prince Edward oyster is. I've eaten
No idea.
oysters, mainly for the aphrodisiac reasons.
Have you seen them
None
served
other
at a Super Bowl
that-
party?
I have
No.
again.
What kind of person is going to put
Sorry,
out
football
oysters for a football party? That it's so stupid. It's the dumbest thing I've ever read in my life. Not only that, but it says he gives tasting notes on the oysters. Like, how pretentious can you possibly get?
I mean, oysters and scotch is starting to become more of a thing. We've had actually one distillery approach us and try and do like an oyster pairing masterclass type of thing, and we were all for it. But that's kind of been tabled for now, so it might happen. But yeah, I don't know about a Super Bowl football game food being oyster.
Are you guys oyster fans or no?
Never
guess
had
let's-
it. I have no interest in trying it.
I'm not a huge
It
fan.
looks so
but-
gross.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, so I don't know if you guys know, but I actually don't eat meat. Like, I'm a pescatarian, so I eat a lot of fish. and oysters kind of are not, I wouldn't ever choose to order it, but if I'm with someone, they're like, oh, you got to try their oysters here. Like, I'll eat them. But I usually find them to just be slimy and not truly appealing.
Yeah, I just lost a little bit of respect for you, but that's okay.
I mean, you didn't know that?
Well, you had respect for him. That's a step ahead of me. I've had them a few times. It's normally been like at fancy restaurants where people are eating oysters and they'll have like a big tray that'll come out. I'll throw a little bit of the sauce on it and slide it down. But I would never think of that as like a good appetizer for a football game party.
Yeah, no.
I'm not sure what type of football party they have. And the next one they have on the list is definitely more my style, which is Eagle Rare and barbecue rib sliders. Which I guess if you're talking for this big game, if you had some Kansas City barbecue rib sliders and Eagle Rare, I would enjoy that. I think the sweet and tangy with the ribs would pair well with an Eagle.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, any bourbon pairs with any barbecue. So
it does, as long as there's not too much spice.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Too much spice.
Like any spicy food is gonna really take away from tasting whiskey.
Yeah. Like sweeter barbecue sauce and bourbon pair excellently.
I don't know if I would like it with an Alabama white barbecue sauce.
Yeah, no. It has to be like a regular
a red Southern.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Of course, I just minimized out of my list.
Next one is wings and Milliman Green Port Cask Rye. This is a horrible pairing.
Dressed in a fruity and spicy sauce. So yeah, you lost me at spicy for sure.
Yeah, you can't eat spicy food and drink whiskey.
No,
it doesn't work well.
Especially with a peppery rye.
Yeah,
I don't think,
especially with rye, it does not work. I've tried it; it does not work well.
Yeah, I've never had a Milliman Green rye either to try, so I don't know too much about their rye. But
yeah, I don't think I have either. But I mean, typically, like, no matter what rye profile you're talking about, it's not going to pair well with spicy, which, like, most wings are spicy. And like, even this one, they're calling specifically for a port cask rye. That just doesn't seem like it fits to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the wings sound good. Maybe with a dry rub, with like a dry rub spice of,
like I any kind of spice and alcohol to me, like higher proof alcohol.
Yeah, I'd say spicy wings and beer is always a favorite. Like,
yeah,
I have
which
way
is
more
fine.
respect
Like, but like the burn of alcohol plus the burn of spicy food just doesn't mix well. There's nothing refreshing about whiskey and spicy food.
I mean, it's extremely off-putting.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot taste the whiskey. You need some kind of bright, refreshing, like fruity cocktail to pair with any spicing foods to kind of cut it down.
Well, and usually a spicy food is gonna like blow your palate out for the whiskey anyway. You're not gonna be able to pick up whatever you would normally be able to or try to pick up from the whiskey. So yeah, dumb.
Here's a hot take for my side of things. I don't like drinking and eating that much together at the same time either, unless it's with a beer.
Man, I'm the opposite.
Like, I usually will stop drinking neat whiskey if I'm going to be eating like small snacks, like the little cheese trays, cracker trays, like stuff like that. I'll snack, but I can't have a meal and and sit there and sip on whiskey while I'm
yeah.
having it.
I mean, I agree with like
I
having
usually
a meal,
don't either.
But big football game party, like I'm gonna be eating and drinking the whole time.
Would you
Find
be
me grazing
eating
the appetizer table?
Would you be at the appetizer table grazing on the next option, which is caviar dip and Yamazaki 12-year-old?
Well, of course they had to throw in a Yamazaki. I mean, that is probably the number one sponsor of Whiskey Advocate. Every single article they come out with features a Yamazaki. Me personally, like I don't really think caviar is a football game food that you would think about, you know.
Oh, but what about an elevated dish is what they're saying here. This is an elevated dish.
I'll tell you right now, the guy that wrote this article has never watched the Super Bowl in his life, and he's never been to a Super Bowl party.
Or the guy who wrote the article has never really drank whiskey. They just told him which whiskeys he needs to include.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we want to go through all these things. Like,
Well, there's not too many more, but
Redwood Empire steak tacos, like, sign me up. Like, that one I could do.
Fine, I guess.
well, any whiskey and steak tacos.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any
question on the
whiskey
steak
and tacos.
here. Tacos. Here's the kicker on here though. They're wanting it on a corn tortilla. You guys corn or
Corn.
flour? Jake?
Either. It doesn't bother me.
If I do corn, I got to have like 2 or 3 layers of corn tortilla. Otherwise, my fingers just poke right through and I have a.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But in the next one, we have to tell because, of course, it's in there.
The fish tacos and Wellers.
The Wellers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God.
William
So that's a special
LaRue
reserve.
Weller Special Reserve. And fish tacos.
I think it's Wellers.
Well,
I think it's
yeah,
called Wellers.
that's fine. Served with
Which
creamy
again-
coleslaw, zesty pico de gallo, spooned over the top.
Which, like, fine, whatever. Like, all right, I'll say this might actually be the most sensible pairing on the list because they're both light
Well, I
and
was
like
gonna say
flavor and like aren't overpowering.
I agree with that, but Weller Reserve could pair with anything because it's so light and
Right.
flavorless.
Yeah.
Like you could put it with anything you want,
Yeah.
and it would do fine.
Yeah. It's not like any kind of revelation.
Okay,
That would be
so-
like my spicy pairing. If you have like wings, put Weller against it because it kind of refresh your palate and set it back to
Right.
0.
It's like borderline neutral.
What if we did Weller and the caviar? You think that would go all right?
As long as you have your pinky up when you're
They'll all
drinking
do
it.
well.
What they got a 3 cheese and pepperoni flatbread with Whistle Pig farm stock rye. Now, at least like the last couple here they've had are like something that you would actually eat at a Super Bowl party.
Yeah, but like,
Yeah.
what wouldn't go well with a 3 cheese and pepperoni flatbread?
Right. Like whatever. Move on.
Yeah,
Next one.
Like any kind of any whiskey with a little spice would go well with that. So any rye, any bourbon with a little rye in it.
Yeah. I could do a lobster roll
I could too. I've never seen that at a football
with
party though.
Mortlock.
No. That's oddly specific, unless maybe you're a Patriots fan.
Yeah. But yeah, they're winning with Mortlock. Bacon cheeseburger and High West bourbon.
High
Fine.
West bourbon
I'll
is
take
the
that.
most bland bourbon out there. I mean, you could pick any bourbon on the shelf and pair it with a bacon cheeseburger. Come on.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
So that's what they're telling us to do. What are some things?
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
guys would
say we're
recommend for a
we're
normal
shitting on
party?
Whiskey Advocates list, so let's challenge ourselves to come up with some good pairings and see what we're gonna do here.
I mean,
So first, no spicy food at all.
No.
Not a good idea.
Unless you're
To
gonna
pair your
throw
whiskey
it in a
with.
cocktail.
If you're specifically, yeah, like cocktail is different
Mm-hmm.
than a neat whiskey. So I would say like a really good whiskey sour would pair well with like buffalo wings or something like that.
Buffalo chicken dip.
Yeah, or buffalo chicken dip. That's a good like contrast, and it'll help like reset your palate after the spice.
Yeah, I like. What would go good with taco dip? I almost feel like I want something a
Tequila.
little. I almost feel like I want something a little bit smokier with taco dip.
Wait for our upcoming new Riff barrel pick, which is going to drop before this episode airs, but
Yeah, it was good.
super
smoked.
smoky, like
Yeah,
beyond.
I was thinking that or like that Delbach that I've had
Del
before
Valle
Oh,
would
yeah.
be good.
that would be good.
with a good taco dip.
Yeah, especially with the mesquite in the Delbach. If
Yeah.
you get like some good Southwest kind of action going on, that's perfect.
Already better than. fucking-
Already doing better than Whiskey
Yeah.
Advocate.
What are some of your other go-to foods for the game?
I always get Portillo's beef and sausages because it's easy and it's good.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I was always a big dip. I like dips.
I like dips. I mean,
can't-
so guacamole is a staple.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta have it at a Super Bowl. Thankfully, I think it pairs well with most whiskeys out there. Like, you can pretty much put anything with guacamole. But honestly, I think particularly like an American single malt would do well with guacamole.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it's a little more one-dimensional. It's not as sweet. I think that would be a really good comparison.
I think it plays nice
Yeah.
with other flavors.
Like,
you
it's
know?
very open to other flavors that can get thrown in there and can play off of that. So
Yeah, I think that's like bourbon, I think can too, though you want to lean more towards like sweet and like
and also like
straight savory with bourbon.
So I would do like the caramelized onion cheese that I put on a lot of the boards at the store with some bourbon. I would definitely do some different crackers with the bourbon. It's tough. It is kind of tough to pair meats unless it's like bacon with high fat content with bourbon, because if you get any spice, it's can be very off putting with the spice that you find in bourbon. They don't really go well together.
Jake, I think you were at the Super Bowl party I had at my old place. Maybe. And for food, I want to do something different. So we had like a lot of normal snack things out, but I made a buttload of hot dogs and then just told people to bring over any random thing that they could think of for toppings. So like we just had I was throwing guacamole and pico on hot dogs and just like all this random stuff, make your own crushed up Doritos. I enjoyed that. I would love to do that again. Just anything like that, like goes great. Hot dog and whiskey, fine. Sign me up.
Yeah. But I think that's another thing where like the hot dog is just like meat, and like that pairs well with a good whiskey, particularly like the bourbon and single malt. Rye, I think, is tougher because ryes are typically so like bold and very different. They're more in that like herbal kind of category. So those are a little tougher to
Rye
pair.
would go
I
a lot
think.
better with your dessert trays.
Yeah, if you get more into like the baking spice kind of realm, I think
Kind of like
it's a good
sweeter
one.
desserts, like dulce de leche. Shout out to Neil. Just kidding. Rye would go
I was
well with
thinking
your
like
creme brulee, or like brownies.
Yeah, I was thinking
something a little sweet and more dessert forward. Rye would pair excellent.
I was
with
thinking
caramel.
like if you get like a dill forward rye with like your French onion dip or something like that,
Ooh, yeah.
or like a ranch based dip.
Yeah, if I go to a Super Bowl party, I expect like 5 or 6 different dips to be out there.
Yeah.
Like that's a staple in a Super Bowl, or sorry, any football watch party.
We're past the point.
We stopped caring about 10 times
you need to have like some core dips out there the whole time that will really excite people. And as long as nothing is too spicy, I think most dips, because they're paired with crackers and chips and a lot of saltiness, like most dips would pair well with most bourbons and other whiskeys out there.
Yeah.
The one thing I would recommend for people that are trying to put pairings together is this is a Super Bowl. This is American football. Get your Scotch bullshit out of here.
You had to say
Irish
that, didn't
bullshit
you?
out of here.
You had to say that.
If you're watching the World Cup, have fun. Like I'll care,
agree
but this is
with
America.
Dan on this. You should be drinking American spirits if you're watching American football.
Screw all this freaking Japanese bullshit you got on your whiskey advocate.
I mean, that is
America.
Yeah, that is a little weird that they threw in more overseas whiskeys than American whiskeys for the big American football game.
So I think we're probably all upset. The game is San Fran and Kansas City, and not Baltimore and Detroit, which I think a lot of us would have preferred.
Detroit would have been fun to watch, but
as like we're NFC North. Like, you guys are Bears, I'm a Packer. Like the way I've always viewed the North and the NFC Central since I was little is it's like Green Bay is going to win. I absolutely despise the Vikings with all my heart. I hate the Bears, but I have a mutual respect for the history. And the Lions were always like the little kid that ran around the playground with a helmet on. And it's like, oh, good for you guys. Look at you guys doing well for once. So like, I didn't care about them. But regardless, we were going to like try and do our own picks of the game based off of whiskeys made in each state. There's a couple really big states that produce a lot of whiskey and have a lot of great distilleries. Missouri and California are not super big in those.
not yet.
Markets markets
also
are growing in both.
Also, very surprising that they aren't, just because California being so big, they're usually one of the first to spearhead any kind of movement. But yeah, not with whiskey.
Yeah.
So the one thing I mean, we haven't done any research on this, like we normally never do. I almost wonder on the California side, like if there's disputes and they make the wine industry has such a hold in the alcohol business out there, if they purposely try and make it harder for the rules to change,
Probably.
to keep the wine as number one. So I'm not saying that's what's happening, but that's one of the first initial things I started when I'm like, God, there aren't a ton. And you would think with as much land as they have out there, they'd be able to have
money.
some big distilleries.
I mean,
They have a lot of water issues, though. You need a lot of water if you're going to
not right now. Have you heard about this? It rained in LA the other day.
It's been actually raining a ton. But yeah. But no, I mean, I do think that California is maybe untapped because there's probably a lot of laws that do favor wine because they're known as wine. That's what they're trying to get people behind in California. And I think there's probably a lot of untapped space because there's people with a lot of money there. And whiskey's starting to pop up and become popular everywhere else. So you would think California would get into the game sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and like when you think about Illinois, like a lot of our laws regarding spirits in Illinois are from recently after
they
Prohibition.
all are. Every state's kind of like that.
And they're still hard to change. And then when you think about California with all those wine people, like, hey, this could affect our sales. Why would we want to take our tourism away and share it with somebody else? So I wouldn't be surprised if they have a lot of people lobbying to make it harder and harder to change laws out there.
I guarantee you that's true.
It sounds like a very Californian thing to do as well.
Any state with liquor is very old school. They're very hard to change those laws. In California with the wine country, they probably have a lot of old money and a lot of old politics that play into a factor of denying new distilleries to pop up.
And when you think about it, there's a decent amount coming out of the Pacific Northwest. When you look at Oregon and Washington, there are some distilleries that have some decent distribution up there, and they're producing a decent amount. But you're not seeing it out of California. No. It'd be something we should probably research maybe sometime.
I mean, because even specifically Oregon has a big single malt. I can't think of words.
I mean, Westward, Westland.
Thanks for saving me.
Out of Washington, those are some of the two best single malt distilleries in the U.S. And
there's not single malt, but I've had Trails End out of Oregon, which is Oregon Oak.
Is it Bull Run? Bull Run is out of Oregon.
Bull Run's out there. What's the Woodinville?
Woodinville is Washington.
So you see a lot in that area. In terms of the big ones that you're seeing, which out of California, Sonoma Distilling is one of the bigger ones. The biggest one that people probably search for is Redwood Empire.
Yeah.
They've had some special, I guess kind of special releases I've tried that were pretty darn good. Some of their stuff is just okay, but that's pretty decent. I would say Redwood Empire is the one I've drank the most out of it. Jake, you had mentioned another one as well,
Wolves. Too. Wolves whiskey is definitely one to keep an eye on out of California.
They're kind of niche, I'd say.
Extremely niche. I don't even think crafty is the right word, but just more niche.
It's experimental.
Yeah,
almost.
So they're
purely experimental.
I mean, you have to kind of turn your eyes towards them because their first two releases they did were with collaboration with Willet. So they're not just pumping on a still in someone's backyard and creating a brand out of nowhere. They have good connections, and the story behind them is that they're distilling on a 1980s brandy still that came out of Cognac, and the guy that's distilling it doesn't trust anyone to run the still, so when they're doing distilling runs, he's sleeping in 4-hour shifts so they can wake up, make all the cuts on the still, go back to sleep, wake up, make the cuts, go back to sleep. And there was a really interesting article that Forbes published about them about a year ago, talking about how they're the future of investment whiskey, which could lead us down a whole nother rabbit hole, I know, with this group. But just something to look up, something to keep an eye on, because they don't do a whole lot of releases. Everything they release is extremely small quantities, and most of it doesn't go out to stores. Most of it is only available in California at the distillery. But we have received a few things from them, and they're getting attention from some other known distilleries. So I think it's just something to keep an eye on for now and pay attention to.
Yeah, that the hops one was wild.
Super unique. I mean, some people hated it. I loved it because of how unique it was. It was a blend of a 6-year-old stout mash with a 7-year-old rye whiskey mash and a 9-year-old hoppy pale ale mash. And you could taste everything in there. It smelled like a Guinness. It tasted like a Sierra Nevada pale ale. And you could really actually taste the hops in there and the chocolatey from the stout. So there was a lot going on. The rye with the spice. It was one of the more unique whiskeys I've had for the price point. There's probably better things out there on the shelf. But if you're looking for the most unique whiskey out there, that would be probably it.
Yeah.
I thought their label looked pretentious, but
it looks boring and plain.
It's from California, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just
a white label with the wolves. Yeah, so
I know
they don't. They're. I think they don't really need to do much marketing because their story is pretty cool, and they're only producing so much that it does actually sell out every batch that they put out. But yeah, I think if they want to scale up, they need to do something about their bottle and marketing and labels.
It's just like the way their label was on the bottle made me think it was like a Patrick Bateman business card style of play that they were going for. Like that's all I could think about when I saw it. But if we go to the other side, if we look at Missouri, again, not a ton yet. The probably the one that you've heard most about recently, it's coming out more and more, is the Ben Holiday Distillery. I know we had that in a blind tasting at Gold Eagle as well. They use soft red winter wheat, similar to Makers and us at Whiskey Acres.
Which, side note, that was the only whiskey I've tasted in a blind to Gold Eagle that I actively disliked.
Which one?
The Holiday.
The Holiday.
It's done very well in our blinds.
I know. I just did not like it. Don't know why.
Which one were you?
I remember because
you remember what it was against.
You were just sitting there shitting all over it, and it was up against ours.
The Whiskey Acres.
And I like, and like as soon as I got the glasses, I'm like, oh, this one smells all right. Oh, I know which one this one is. And I just let you shit all over the Holiday. I'm like, well, at least it's not shitting over Whiskey Acres. I'm in good spirits now. I don't think it was bad. It was lacking a little bit for me. But yeah, Holiday, and then I've never had it. I know our master distiller is a big fan of Still 630 out of Missouri. And Gold Eagle, Jake had mentioned that there is now a designation for Missouri straight bourbon. Same way that we have designations for Tennessee whiskey, Kentucky straight bourbon. And the rules for Missouri straight bourbon that got passed is it must be 100% corn from Missouri, must be mashed, distilled, and fermented, or mashed, fermented, distilled in Missouri, and made out of Missouri oak barrels. So they have a fairly tight standard on what is considered Missouri straight bourbon.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see that become a trend across the country. I don't know of any other state designations like that off the top of my head. Besides Kentucky straight.
Yeah, but I was going to say, besides Kentucky, I don't think there's any other that I know of.
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of
Tennessee
cool.
whiskey has their stuff.
Yeah,
too,
Tennessee does. That's right.
But yeah, it's kind of nice because it helps promote stuff that's grown in the state. So it's nice to be able to see something that hey, this is all. Obviously, that's big for us at Whiskey Acres with everything being grown on the farm, but saying, hey, we know where all this stuff's coming from. It's all locally sourced stuff. Let's let our state stand out a little bit in this whiskey. So
yeah, and with the recent scares over the availability of American white oak, saying, okay, you can use some other type of wood, for your whiskey and call it,
it's still white oak, Jake. It's still white oak. It's Missouri is part of America, so it's still American white oak. If you're not good on your geology or your geography, that's,
I know, but don't they prefer to source from the Kentucky area? I thought that was the main issue.
There's like a lot of Oregon oak that goes around too.
Oh,
so
okay. Never mind.
I think Missouri is one of the ones they're ripping through really quick.
Well, then I don't know what I'm talking about. We can move on.
Like normal. Yeah, so I mean, I guess if you're going to try and pick a Super Bowl winner off of the whiskey style of things, I've probably had the most and enjoyed the most out of Redwood Empire of these, but I will say I haven't had a ton of experience. I've tasted a bunch of different things.
Redwood Empire is good. That's a distillery where almost everything I've tried from them has been solid for their respected price point. So that would be a fun head-to-head blind. All Redwood Empire versus Ben Holiday. Pick our Super Bowl winner.
Yeah,
right
that would be pretty stark, though, wouldn't it?
I feel you guys missed that opportunity the other week when you had a blind tasting.
We could have.
Like Gold Eagle.
Maybe we should do it this Saturday night, after this episode airs, or before this episode airs, and pick our Super Bowl winner off of that.
Yeah.
So who do you guys have any rooting interest at all in this?
I think San Francisco is going to win. Only because Taylor Swift needs a ring, and the only way that's going to happen is if they win.
Well, she's with the Chiefs.
Or do I have that backwards?
Yeah.
I have it
You have that
backwards.
completely backwards. Again, just more proof why.
I don't care at all.
Jake's a whiskey person, not a
there's
sports
your
person.
evidence.
Is he? Because he doesn't seem to know much about whiskey either. Our conversation.
I was talking about trees.
Yeah.
That's where I got lost.
I don't know.
So,
I'm
Yeah, let the
That's
certified
much-
arborist. Let
that's
the
your-
former certified
Yeah,
arborist
that's
talk
your-
about
that's
it.
torn.
your
I've
area of
been
expertise.
I've been picking the Chiefs the entire way this playoffs, just because I know they turn a switch when the playoffs come, and when big games come, they're a different team than the regular season. But I kind of want the 49ers to win only because they're the underdogs, or they haven't won. Chiefs have won. Mahomes got his rings. Kelsey got his
Yeah.
rings, so they're good. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping for a good game. As long as it's a close game, it's fun to watch. I think I'll be happy.
So Roger Goodell says he thinks it's going to be watched by 200 million people, which I think last year's Super Bowl was 112 or 120, somewhere in there.
Why? Because
I
of
don't
Taylor
know.
Swift?
I'm guessing a lot of the Swifties are going to watch. I think he's pulling those numbers in. To be honest, I don't really care about either of these teams.
Yeah.
I would want the Niners to win more for the Brock Purdy story. Just 'cause I think that's cool from being the last pick in the draft to having a Super Bowl ring, which is someone you would never expect because he's one of the very few Mr. Irrelevance that made opening day roster in NFL history. So to go from that to starting QB of the Super Bowl winning team would be cool. One of my dreams in high school was to be able to dance like Usher. But I'm still not overly excited to see the Usher halftime show.
Aren't there like 6 people doing the halftime show?
There's always like 6
It's
people
like the
doing
most
halftime show.
random group. It was like Usher, Reba.
Rusher?
I was just mixing up Reba and Usher. And what's his face? Post Malone and somebody else that's also like out of left field.
I know Usher is the main.
Usher's the main one. Like, I understand why they put a lot of people in, but like when you look at last year's, was my favorite of all time. You have Dre, you have Snoop.
That wasn't last year.
Yeah, it was.
No, last year was Rihanna, wasn't it?
Oh, Rihanna, yeah, 2 years ago. 2 years ago was probably my favorite. But then they had, Kendrick Lamar or whatever. I can't remember who it was that made no sense to shoehorn in there. But, I don't know. I just don't have much interest in the Super Bowl this year. It just kind of sucks. But
Yeah.
what
do you mean?
I'll be sitting there eating my caviar
I got
and
great
drinking
interest.
Japanese
Everyone
whiskey.
should have interest. It's one of the most entertaining. It is the most entertaining sports event of the year. Even if you don't like football, there's going to be some entertaining commercials.
They haven't
They
been
haven't
good
been as
lately.
Yeah,
they haven't been
they've
as
sucked.
good, but they're going to be better than any other typical broadcast.
And
I guess. But like
I did
you just
I
hit
don't know.
like
I also
don't
think
know.
there's been
It's not as good as it used to
yeah,
be.
but there's also been a lot of hate on the commercials lately. So I think I got a feeling they're going to step it up this year.
the other crazy thing on the commercial side is the 5 largest car companies aren't the top 5 largest car companies aren't running a commercial this year.
Oh, really?
That's surprising.
Was new. Yeah.
Because they're all stopping their electric vehicle sales.
Yeah, was it a year or two ago when everything was so usually when Jake R and we were at the Super Bowl, Roberto years ago before Jake R was even knew who Jake was, before I even knew I think who Jenna Ray was. We used to have Super Bowl parties at an apartment complex, and Roberto was there, and we would bet on everything, including I bet the next commercials for Pepsi. Nope, I'm going Doritos. Like, it was any single bet you could throw out. Like, they had a bet between Roberto and another friend who they would show someone spitting on the sideline first. I was just talking to Loogie on the sideline. That was a $10 bet that played out for 3 quarters. Like, it was just any stupid thing you wanted to bet on. And that's how it makes Super Bowl enjoyable. Spend money, bet money. That's fun. Just bet your money.
Yeah,
squares.
Prop bets are the best.
If you're at a Super Bowl party that does not have squares, get the fuck out.
Yeah. Squares
They are not going to
and prop
put
bets
that little effort. If you can't put the small effort into squares, don't have a Super Bowl party. You don't deserve to have one.
I will. So I'm a little upset though about last year that Chris Stapleton did not go over on the national anthem. I was a little upset about that.
Hey, the good news this year, Super Bowl pre-concert, Zach Bryan, baby.
Oh, really? Nice.
But Bud Light Super Bowl pre-concert is Zach Bryan.
I thought you were going to say
so really
good news this year is you can drink Traveler before the Super Bowl.
Well, you could.
Get your redemption.
Anything else about the big game or anything else we want to talk about with those things? I know we're just kind of all over the place.
It's kind of a jumble episode. Kind of a, we're releasing this on Super Bowl Sunday, so just talking random shit. And I
mean, to be fair, we've had a lot of things planned out with guests and things recently. We kind of needed to take a break from like 5 minutes of planning a week
shooting the shit,
just doing nothing.
This is also might be Dan's last episode for a little while, maybe.
Yeah, I'll probably be gone for a few weeks. If you listened, a few months ago I missed an episode with back surgery and didn't quite clear everything up, so they're sending me in for a major one this time. So I'll probably be laid up for a few weeks, but get back as quick as I can and drink whiskey as quick as I can. But one of the questions I asked specifically this time is if I'm on pain meds pretty heavily, when can I start drinking straight whiskey again, which doesn't go over as well as you expect it to in the doctor's office.
It's only 5 to 7 times a week, though.
Yeah. Well, I get mad because they ask me that question, and now that I've been a neat bourbon drinker, it's like they ask you how many drinks do you have a week, and I'm like, okay, if I write down 5 to 10, it's bad, but if I say like 12 ounces a week, that doesn't sound nearly as bad. That sounds like a beer a week. That sounds perfectly fine. But no, I'll probably miss a little bit, which is going to give you time to talk about things no one that listens cares about, such as scotch and cordials and other bullshit.
We're pushing back Scotch Matters because March is going to be the return of March Dramness, our other sports-related event.
Yeah, we did really well on that. For as drunk as we got during that whole thing of not saying the actual things that happen that are mad in the month of March, we did well. And if you're unfamiliar with March Dramness, it was a great idea Roberto had. Mm-hmm. And if you're new to listening to the show, Roberto had never had any idea. We just would say ideas and he would claim them. Where we do a blind bracket challenge and pick a winner all the way through blind. So all the rounds are completely blind. We get to the end, we get to a winner, and then we find out what everything is. So we'll cue that back up. But that was fun. Plus, it's like, I know we split it up over like 2 days last time. Like we had like multiple episodes. We did all the drinking over 2 days. Like this year, we're just going to hunker down one Saturday and just blaze right through it. Like I feel like we need to do it at Gold Eagle with games on behind us as we're just sitting there getting shit-faced.
We should. We'd have to. I'd sponsor an Uber for everybody home, but we would do it.
That's an expensive Uber to get back down.
No. You're sleeping at. You're sleeping
at
Jake's house that night.
No. You said home. That's not my home. Oh God. All right, gents. Well, I know we're not going to see each other for the game. I'll be having a whiskey thinking about how awful you guys are, and then a few days later I'll be all drugged up on the good stuff. So
yep.
But have fun, guys. Have a few fun episodes without me. Make sure to say lots of nice things about me.
You know it.
I would say I'll listen to make sure, but let's be honest, I'm not.
We can talk all the shit.
As much shit as possible.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. You guys talk shit to my face. Like, why would I talk when you talk it when I'm not here?
Yeah,
like,
but it's more fun when you're not here.
All right, guys. Well, this is fun. Last little just kind of shit around episode. Hopefully, people who listened enjoyed. Someone's probably going to talk shit like they always do, but that's fine. So
yeah, let us know what everybody thinks about pairings for things.
Seriously.
And if you do have a good pairing,
drop
for
it in the
Super Bowl,
comments.
let us know what you did.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, where can people go to buy their alcohol for the big game?
GoldEagleWine.com or 255 Peterson Road in Libertyville, Illinois. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Gold Eagle Wine, Facebook at Gold Eagle Spirits, and you'll be up to date with all of our daily deliveries and whatnot. But yeah, that's Gold Eagle.
Any other delivery
news?
news?
Over there if you're listening the day this comes out, though.
We do ship.
Oh yeah.
So it hasn't.
Yeah, Jake, way to step all over when I set that up perfectly.
It hasn't been officially announced yet, but we actually have started shipping. We're kind of waiting to just get a few weeks of shipping under our belt before we blast it out there to the masses. But we have started shipping to Florida, Alaska, Puerto Rico, and D.C., and all throughout Illinois. Don't ask me why that's where we ship, but that is where we ship for now. So yeah, if you're in one of those states, you can now order from goldeaglewine.com. We'll ship it to you. If you're in a different state that isn't in there, I would like to hear where you're from because we can start to expand. These were just the easiest states to start shipping to. So as soon as we get a little grasp on that, we'll post it out that we're shipping officially. But yeah, we have started to ship.
Yeah,
just so
only
you know,
about a year after you announced initially.
Almost
Promise
a year,
kind of
but
fulfilled.
Yeah, there's as you should know. I mean, Dan, I know knows, but there's a lot of politics and legal stuff that you have to go through with anything to do with liquor. And let's just say it took a lot longer than we expected to get everything in line and in order to start shipping. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was a huge headache. I'll put it at that.
But the payoff is worth it.
We'll see. We've only shipped a few orders so far, so we'll see if it's worth it. But I mean, hey, a few is better than nothing, right?
Yep.
Just so you know, Alaska is on my list of places I want to get back to recently, or somewhat in the near future, and I will definitely be ordering a bottle and having you ship it to Alaska.
Hell yeah.
And I'll wait for a time when you have a free shipping promo to do that.
Perfect.
All right, Jake, where can people hear us?
You can watch us on YouTube and Spotify. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or any other podcast platform. You can email us at bourbonmatters@gmail.com. Go to our website that Dan probably hasn't updated in over a year.
I think it's about 6 months.
So don't go to the website. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to have a lot of time to do nothing, so I guess it's going to get updated.
In that case, go to bourbonmatterspodcast.com when Dan's out for surgery. Like, share, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell, follow us on Instagram or Facebook. Make sure you watch our episode from last week on Lake County Whiskey Club. We had Matt, the founder, on. It was great, good conversation. If you're from Lake County, you should absolutely join up. Keep an eye on their Facebook page for events. Because this year, Matt's got a lot of really cool stuff planned with Jake and lots of other exciting things.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.